Rodeos may be thrilling, but behind the dust and adrenaline lies a darker side of danger. From bull riders being gored mid-ride to tragic missteps in the arena, some accidents are so shocking they leave a lasting mark. Here's a look at the most disturbing rodeo accidents of all time. In the world of professional bull riding, few names carry as much weight and legacy as Lane Frost, a young man with a big smile, a bigger heart, and talent that could only be described as once in a generation. Born and raised in rodeo life, Lane wasn't just good at riding bulls, he was magnetic. Fans didn't just watch him for the thrill of the ride. They watched because he had that rare combination of grit, grace, and humility. At only 25 years old, he had already achieved what many only dream of, becoming the 1987 PRCA World Champion and rising to icon status in the rodeo circuit. But on July 30th, 1989, at the Cheyenne Frontier Days Rodeo in Wyoming, one of the biggest events on the circuit, the sport lost one of its brightest stars in a moment that would forever change rodeo history. That day, Lane was matched with a bull ominously named Taken Care of Business, a 1,900-pound beast that lived up to its name. Lane did what he did best. He held on for 8 perfect seconds, scoring a clean ride that had the crowd roaring. But what came after is the part no one saw coming. As Lane dismounted and turned to move away, the bull spun back unexpectedly and struck him in the side with its horn. It wasn't a brutal toss or a wild trampling, just a single hit, but it was in the worst possible place. The horn broke several ribs, and one of them punctured Lane's heart and lungs. At first, the seriousness of the injury wasn't clear. Rodeo riders get banged up all the time, but this was different. Despite emergency medical efforts on the arena floor and a rush to the hospital, Lane died shortly after. The rodeo world was stunned. This wasn't just the loss of a champion, it was the loss of someone who embodied everything good about the sport: sportsmanship, courage, kindness, and a relentless drive to be better. Lane's death sent shockwaves across the community, but it also sparked an urgent conversation about rider safety. At the time, protective vests weren't required. Most riders didn't wear them, thinking they were cumbersome or unnecessary. But after Lane's death, that attitude changed fast. In fact, one of his close friends and fellow bull riders, Cody Lambert, developed the first widely used protective vest in Lane's memory. Today, such vests are mandatory in most rodeo circuits, and they've undoubtedly saved countless lives. So while Lane's life ended too soon, his legacy lived on. Not just in the fans who remember his dazzling performances or the film 8 Seconds that told his story, but in the very gear that now protects every bull rider who climbs into the chute. His story is one of triumph and tragedy, of heart and heartbreak. Lane Frost wasn't just a rodeo cowboy. He was a symbol of bravery and humility in a sport that demands both in every single ride. His final moments were a cruel reminder of how dangerous the sport can be, but the changes that followed proved that even in tragedy, something meaningful can emerge. To this day, people visit his grave in Oklahoma, leave flowers, belt buckles, and notes, and remember the young man who did more than ride bulls. He changed the rodeo forever. In December of 1994, the glittering lights of Las Vegas set the stage for the National Finals Rodeo, the Super Bowl of bull riding. The arena was packed, the crowd electric, and the energy palpable as the best rodeo athletes in the world gathered to test their grit against some of the fiercest bulls in the sport. Among them was Brent Thurman, a 25-year-old rising star from Texas whose talent and fearless spirit had already earned him a spot among the greats. Known for his calm demeanor and unwavering focus, Brent wasn't just another cowboy in the lineup. He was a fan favorite with a promising future. That night, Brent was matched with Red Wolf, a massive and notoriously unpredictable bull with a reputation for giving riders the fight of their lives. Red Wolf wasn't just powerful, he was intelligent, calculating, and known for the kind of athleticism that made him as famous as the men who tried to ride him. For most cowboys, drawing Red Wolf meant a long night. But for Brent, it was a challenge he seemed ready to face. He climbed into the chute, adjusted his grip, gave a quick nod, and the gate burst open. What followed was a ride that showcased Brent's remarkable skill. He held on, balanced and focused, as Red Wolf exploded out of the gate and twisted with raw fury. Brent lasted the full 8 seconds, an incredible feat against a bull like that, and the crowd roared in approval. But as the buzzer sounded and Brent dismounted, tragedy struck. Red Wolf, instead of galloping away, spun around and delivered a crushing blow to Brent's head with his horn, followed by a brutal trampling as the bull passed over him. The celebration turned to horror in an instant. Brent lay unconscious in the dirt as medics rushed to his side. He was immediately transported to the hospital, where doctors discovered he had suffered severe head injuries. He was placed in a coma and remained in critical condition. For 6 days, family, friends, and the rodeo community held their breath, hoping for a miracle. But on December 17, 1994, Brent Thurman passed away, surrounded by loved ones. He was only 25 years old. His death was a heartbreaking moment that shook the entire rodeo world to its core. He wasn't just a competitor. He was a symbol of courage, sportsmanship, and determination. In the wake of his passing, the rodeo community came together not just to mourn, but to honor Brent's legacy. His story became a powerful reminder of the dangers these athletes face every time they step into the arena, and the unmatched bravery it takes to do what they do. To keep his memory alive, the Brent Thurman Memorial Award was established, given each year at the NFR to the rider who earns the highest scored bull ride. It's not just an award, it's a tribute to Brent's spirit, skill, and the mark he left on the sport. Even today, decades later, Brent's name is remembered with respect and reverence. His final ride may have ended in tragedy, but it also served as a lasting symbol of the risks, the passion, and the heart that define the world of bull riding. Brent Thurman rode with courage, lived with purpose, and left behind a legacy that continues to inspire every cowboy who dares to climb on the back of a bull. Mason Lowe was more than just a cowboy with grit. He was a rising star in the world of professional bull riding, someone who lived and breathed the sport with every ounce of passion in his bones. At just 25 years old, he was ranked among the top bull riders on the planet, competing against the fiercest beasts in arenas filled with roaring fans. But as thrilling as the sport can be, it also carries risks that lurk behind every 8-second ride. And on January 15, 2019, during the PBR Velocity Tour at the National Western Stock Show in Denver, those risks proved tragically real. Mason was matched with a powerful bull named Hard Times, a name that would soon carry far too much weight. The ride began like many others, with Mason holding firm and the bull thrashing in an all-out attempt to throw him. Within moments, Mason was bucked off, but what followed was the kind of moment that sends chills through the rodeo world. As he hit the ground, Hard Times circled back, and in a single, crushing step, the bull's hind legs landed directly on Mason's chest. The crowd gasped. The announcers fell silent, and for a brief, surreal moment, time seemed to freeze. Mason managed to stand, walk a few steps, and even looked like he might be okay, until he collapsed. Emergency crews rushed in and transported him to Denver Health, but the damage was devastating. Despite wearing a protective vest, Mason suffered massive internal injuries, severe trauma to his heart and aorta. He passed away shortly after, sending shockwaves through the entire bull riding community. Mason's death wasn't just a loss to the sport, it was a deeply personal blow to those who knew him. He was known as a quiet, humble, hard-working man who never chased the spotlight, even though his talent could have filled stadiums. His fellow riders described him as kind-hearted and fearless, someone who didn't just ride bulls, but truly respected them. The Professional Bull Riders, PBR organization, responded swiftly, honoring Mason's memory with a touching arena tribute, black ribbon patches, and a wave of support from fans and fellow competitors alike. A memorial fund was set up, which raised over $200,000 for his wife Abby and his family, a testament to the deep respect the rodeo world had for him. The bull Hard Times was not blamed for the incident. It was determined to be a tragic accident, one that highlighted just how unpredictable and dangerous this sport truly is. Unlike most sports, where bruises and sprains are the biggest threat, bull riding plays with much higher stakes, where one wrong step can alter everything. In the wake of Mason's passing, PBR established the Mason Lowe Award, an annual honor given to the rider who earns the highest marked ride of the season in the Unleash the Beast series. It's a fitting tribute for someone who gave his all every time he climbed into the chute. His legacy lives on, not only in that award, but also in the hearts of every rider who straps in, not just for glory, but for the love of the sport, just like Mason did. His story is a sobering reminder that behind the cheers, pyrotechnics, and adrenaline of bull riding, there's a quiet bravery at play, men and women chasing a dream, fully aware of the risks, riding anyway. Mason Lowe wasn't just a cowboy, he was a symbol of courage, a professional who met the toughest challenges with strength and humility. And though he's no longer riding among us, his spirit will forever echo through the chutes of every PBR arena. March 24, 2000 wasn't supposed to be anything more than another adrenaline-charged night in Albuquerque at the Ty Murray Invitational, one of the marquee events in the Professional Bull Riders, PBR, circuit. The crowd was buzzing, the dirt was packed, and the bulls were as wild and unpredictable as ever. Among the competitors was a 23-year-old Canadian bull rider named Glenn Keelley, known for his humble demeanor, gutsy rides, and growing promise in the world of professional rodeo. Glenn wasn't the flashiest rider, but he had heart, loads of it. That night, he drew a bull with a name that sounded more like a country song than a monster, Promised Land. But make no mistake, this bull was a beast, an 1,800-pound wrecking ball with hooves, attitude, and a fierce reputation for launching riders like popcorn from a hot pan. Glenn had never ridden a bull of this caliber before, and although he had nothing to prove, he strapped in like a man determined to hang on. As the chute opened, Promised Land exploded out like a freight train with a jetpack. Glenn held on for just about 2 seconds before being violently bucked off. It was quick, too quick. He hit the ground hard and landed on his side. But the danger in bull riding isn't just the fall, it's what happens next. Before Glenn could scramble away or the bullfighters could step in, Promised Land did what bulls sometimes tragically do. He turned and came down, his hoof slamming square into Glenn's chest. The impact was catastrophic. The arena went from roaring to eerily silent in an instant. Bullfighters rushed in, medical personnel were on the scene within seconds, but the damage was already done. Glenn was rushed to a nearby hospital, but he succumbed to his internal injuries shortly after. It was a devastating blow to the PBR community. Glenn Keelley became the first rider to ever die in a PBR-sanctioned event. The loss of Glenn Keelley hit hard. He wasn't just another cowboy chasing glory. He was a beloved son, a rising star, and a respected rider among his peers. Hailing from Alberta, Canada, Glenn had that quiet determination that made people root for him. He wasn't chasing fame. He was just doing what he loved, riding bulls with grit and grace. His death was a painful reminder of how unforgiving the sport could be. It sparked renewed conversations about safety equipment, rider training, and the brutal reality that even in a sport where toughness is the currency, fragility still lurks one misstep away. In the wake of his passing, the PBR and the broader rodeo world mourned, paid tribute, and quietly questioned how to better protect the athletes who put their lives on the line for 8 seconds of glory. Today, Glenn Keelley's legacy lives on, especially in Canada, where the Glenn Keelley Memorial Bull Riding event is held annually to honor his memory and support young riders who share the same fire he had. His story is etched into the lore of the sport, not just as a cautionary tale, but as a testament to the kind of courage that defines bull riders. He may not have ridden Promised Land for the full 8 seconds, but in those brief moments, Glenn Keelley rode with everything he had, and for that, he earned the respect of an entire sport. Zachary Nagel knew the risks of bull riding. Everyone in the sport does. It's not a matter of if you'll get hurt, but when and how bad. But no amount of experience could have prepared the 24-year-old for what happened on February 7th, 2025, in Palmetto, Florida. It was supposed to be another high-energy night at the Conley Invitational, filled with roaring crowds, snorting bulls, and the thrill of 8-second rides. Zach climbed onto the chute like he'd done countless times before, adrenaline pumping, completely unaware that he was about to have a literal near-death experience in front of a packed arena. Seconds into his ride, everything went wrong. The bull launched forward, bucking wildly, and in the chaos, its horn slipped beneath Zach's helmet and punctured the side of his neck. Not a scrape, not a graze, but a full-on goring that nicked his jugular and clipped part of his carotid artery. The arena, once filled with cheering, turned instantly silent as blood began pouring from a 6-inch gash in his throat. Panic set in, but Zach didn't lose consciousness immediately. Instead, he recalled trying to breathe through what felt like a growing weight on his chest. He later described thinking, "I'm not ready to die," while desperately clutching his neck. It was raw, terrifying, and absolutely real. First responders sprinted into action. Within moments, paramedics were at his side, applying pressure to the wound and trying to keep him conscious. Zach lost nearly 2 gallons of blood right there on the dirt, and yet somehow the quick intervention saved his life. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, where trauma surgeons worked quickly to repair the damage. In the hours that followed, family, friends, and fans held their breath. The injury was so severe that doctors weren't sure if he'd even survive the night. He spent days in the ICU, with tubes helping him breathe and medical teams monitoring every heartbeat and every flicker of progress. And somehow, against all odds, Zach pulled through. He emerged from surgery with his life, a brutally stitched neck wound, and a deep new appreciation for everything he'd nearly lost. His recovery wasn't just physical. Emotionally, the experience left a mark. It's not every day you're gored in front of a crowd, lose nearly all your blood, and live to tell the tale. For a while, there was talk he might never return to the sport. But if bull riders are anything, they're stubborn, passionate, and a little bit insane in the best way. Over the next few months, Zach leaned on his faith, his support system, and his sheer willpower. He openly shared his journey, posting hospital updates, thanking medical staff, and crediting God for his survival. Fans rallied around him. A GoFundMe was launched, well-wishers sent messages, and fellow riders called him a miracle. By late May, in what can only be described as an incredible comeback, Zach announced that he was getting back on the bull. Not because he had something to prove, but because this sport is in his blood, literally and figuratively. What happened to Zachary Nagel was a stark reminder of the brutal reality behind the rodeo spotlight. It's not all cowboy hats and waving to the crowd. Sometimes it's a fight for your life in the dirt, and survival depends on a combination of skill, luck, and the speed of your emergency crew. Zach didn't just survive, he inspired. His story became a testament to resilience, grit, and the sheer unpredictability of life in the arena. And while that Florida bull may have won the moment, Zach Nagel walked away with something far greater, a second chance and the guts to climb back on.